Welcome to The Growth Show with me as your host, Joe Camerato. I am an entrepreneur who created my company, National Business Capital, from literally $0 out of my spare bedroom to over $2 billion in business loans secured for entrepreneurs nationwide. Since 2007, I have seen just about every type of business. I provide money and help entrepreneurs access capital to scale fast, but I also know that it's possible for you as you scale to replace yourself, to build systems, processes, and great teams of people that can live on without you so you can actually enjoy your life and your company can still grow. I will not only tell you the peaks and valleys of my story, but I will also bring on world-class entrepreneurs to tell their stories and share their lessons on their growth journeys. Welcome to The Growth Show. Welcome to The Growth Show. With me as your host, Joe Camerato. On the show today, I have Yair Klyman, and looking forward to talking to Yair. We just, a lot of stuff happening, in the world today that we'll talk about, but it kind of goes into your mindset in business. And my show is all about growing and growing through, the good times in business, the scaling growth, the challenging times. And I think business is a mindset. So excited to have you on the show today. Yair, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe. Very excited to be here. Yeah. And I love what you're doing. I love your big logo in the back that just says fearless right on the back. And that's really the key of it all. It's fearless means that you can overcome anything.
100%. And let me introduce Yair. So Yair is a financial strategist and owner of Klyman Financial. He has access to more than 30 insurance carriers and hundreds of industry-specific products and investments to better serve clients and provide a custom-tailored fit for each individual client. He established Klyman Financial after owning two other successful businesses. His family was bankrupt and worked at a fitness facility. From the relationships he built there, he started his financial advisory firm and has not stopped since. Yair is also was an Israeli Defense Forces veteran and graduated from the University of Rutgers. Thank you for your service in Israel. And I mean, we're making the show. It's a pretty timely topic with all that's going on. I mean, crazy stuff in the world, happening there and other places around the world. I don't think we realize how lucky we are in the U.S. and how much opportunity we have. And it kind of leads me to my first question is, all this stuff going on, it's very upsetting. It's very frustrating. I think a lot of people feel very helpless. Everyone wants to do something. And it's a very upsetting time to see what's happening. My show is The Growth Show, and it's all about growth, but these life things happen, and you still have a business and a company to manage. You have a responsibility. You've got employees, you've got things happening, you have clients and customers. So, and what I find interesting, we were talking before, Yair, is you're a U.S. citizen. You didn't have to join the Israeli Defense Forces, and you did. So I have a lot of respect for that. But, sorry to hear about all that's happening, how you've been managing through all this.
Thanks. So, thanks, Joe. So it is a very interesting time. It's a very sad time. I was in my synagogue at the time, and it was one of our biggest holidays. And someone says something sad about Israel, and then I asked the guy in front of me, I go, hey, what's going on? And he says, yeah, there's a war. They came in, and there was a lot of terrorism going on, and it brought me back to a lot of points of going to the Army. So I never really spoke about the Army since I've been in the Army. That was in 2012, and I was stationed in Gaza. I knew a lot of families that were murdered. So it's a pretty sad time, but as sad as it is in life, there's something really important to understand, and it goes back to really what you do is there is going to, in life, be a lot of chances of uncertainty. There's going to be a lot of things that you cannot control in life. And how do you persevere, and how do you show resilience through it? And how do you continue to grow? So there's a lot of people who have gone, okay, this terrible thing has happened. I'm going to hide in the corner. And I got a call this morning, and I just was on Fox News, Newsmax, a lot of other radio stations and news stations has reached out, talking about the experience and talking about how do we get through this and how do we overcome this terrorism. And there's times, this point is a crucial time in people's lives to decide, are you going to overcome, or are you going to let these challenging times overcome you? And part of growth is this mindset of being able to take anything that happens and being able to get to the next stage in life. I feel like right now, because I got a call this morning saying, hey, you should be really scared of your family. Maybe you should use a fake name. And I go, no, that's what terrorism wants. You cannot hide in the back if you are looking to grow and get yourself to the next level. And that's really what I've been trying to do is embrace what's happening, and instead of feeling helpless, feel like you're useful and feel like you can actually make an impact and help other people.
Yeah, I think it's so important. This is obviously a real big, serious thing that's happened, and sad thing, and just and crazy thing. I think it's crazy that these things are still happening in the world. Like, it's going to be 2024, and like this stuff is it's just barbaric, and I don't know. It just puzzles me. Um, but there's other things that happen in everyone's life, and we just went through. I mean, COVID. That was a whole nother
Yeah,
completely
absolutely.
situation. But all these things of uncertainty, and I think it's important that you plow through that uncertainty, and you have to get really comfortable with it. You have to be, like you said, fearless. It's not fearless; it's fearless, and power through, the uncertainty. And I mean, going back to, you know, coming from a family, not coming from a lot, and making it happen and growing this business. When you got started, let's go back to that. I mean, there had to be a lot of fear and a lot of.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care who you are. When you start a business, there's a lot of uncertainty, even if you raise a shitload of money.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how you started your business. I don't think it was like you raised a bunch of private money
No,
and.
I did everything myself. So one of the presidents of one of the major universities in the country is a friend of my father, and he was sitting with me. He was sitting with us. We were having dinner together, and my dad and my whole family over like Sabbath dinner. And he says to me, "Hey, I'll give you $100,000 if you give me 25% of your business." And I went, "No, that sounds insane because I'm going to make way more than that." So I went to work at Merrill. I went, my family was going through serious financial struggles, like credit card debt, all this stuff. If we didn't have the house, we would have been homeless, like in realistic terms. And the rabbi of the community, one thing to just note, the community kind of stepped in, and it's big in the Italian community, it's big in the Jewish community, big in the minority communities across the country. That when my dad said to the rabbi, I'm going to lose my home and my kids are going to be homeless, I'm one of six. The rabbi said to my dad, you're not going to be homeless. You're just going to move in with me. And he
Wow.
meant that, which was so deep. And that was like a defining moment when my dad said that to our family. He never hid it. And I realized and a blessing I got from one of my wealthiest clients. And thank God we've grown the business millions and millions of dollars. I could retire today. I could have retired 3 years ago. My kids never have to work, all that stuff. I've built a significant business I could sell for many multiples and not really have to think about money anymore. And I really just love what I do. And I love the impact that I've been making. But it's amazing to be able to take something and to grow something and to help and empower other people. And as when you're poor, let's say when you grow up poor and you feel that everything is against you, you have nothing to lose
Yeah.
because you can never get worse than where you were before.
Yeah. And do you think that's been your secret weapon, growing up,
Always.
poor?
I get
It,
age discriminated all the time. I grew up in a wealthy town. The Jews, everyone says, oh, the Jews have all the money, but not all of us. Not all of us. Sorry to say. But you
it-
can if you live, yeah, fear less is really key. I really love that. And if you can grow and push yourself and not think about like there's always a reason not to be successful. There's very few reasons to be successful. There's always a reason not to call someone when you're prospecting and on sales. And there's always a reason to say, oh, I couldn't make it because of this. So when I first started, I got age discriminated a lot. People don't talk to financial advisors when they're 22 or
yeah, no,
23.
same here.
Yeah, exactly. Like in your space too. They talk to the big guys and the this and the that. They have the hair and the slick back this and the slick back that, and Louis Vuitton tattooed across their chest because that was more expensive and they looked ridiculous. But it's amazing when you're young. You can just grow, and it's an advocate for young people across the country and across the world that you can make it. Don't let outside forces tell you. Fear less every single day. Write it down, that what's actually holding you back, and you will soar.
100%. And I think, growing up that way, you always think, oh, it would have been nice to grow up like this or grow up like that. But I think, that used to really bother me. It took me some time to get over that stuff. And I also thought, because I didn't grow up like this or grow up like that, how am I going to be able to get to these places? And once I realized that that was really my superpower, and it made me hungry, and I turned that into, it really just fueled me. And one, I didn't want to grow up like that. And I didn't want my kids to grow up like that. So it drove me to just work harder than everybody else. And I also learned to bring, value, back to the market, and anything that I'm doing be better than my peers or my competition. And that's just massive. It still motivates me today,
Yeah,
and I still act like I haven't made anything happen. And that just, keeps me going and keeps me
yeah,
driving. And the goals just get bigger. But there's still things that happen in life that are out of your control, that do create, uncertainty. And I feel like you have to constantly fight through that. It's not like you can just do, like, you get over it one time, or you go do an exercise, and now you're like, you have to constantly, like, keep doing the work to keep your mindset, I think, in a great place, and be able to keep going and keep powering through really anything and everything that life, throws at you.
yeah. There's an interesting thing. So we're behavioral financial advisors, which is a designation that we can give actual life advice and coaching and things like that based off of emotions, and that's how we plan our finances. And once you find somebody's values, you're able to then, I wouldn't say manipulate, but you're able to coach them through working through their strengths and eliminating all their weaknesses. So what I really like what you're saying is, like, you can't just overcome it once, you have to overcome it multiple times. If you know yourself, you'll be able to overcome any challenge. So when something for we do something called preparing, the certainty of uncertainty, planning when something bad will happen.
Yeah,
But you
and
have
doing
to
that ahead
plan
of
more
time, like
before.
before, like,
Correct.
yeah, yeah,
Bad things will happen. For
yep,
example, in your business is a perfect example. Every business will have cash flow issues. Every
yep,
business. I do
yep.
not care how big of a business, you will have cash flow issues, because you're going to go, I want to grow to the next stage. And now I need capital to do that. I don't care what I'm paying. I just need to make sure that I can get through my payroll. I can appease my shareholders. I can appease my investors. I can appease my income. I can cover my expenses. I can pay my private school. Everything has that. And just there's little humps. So prepping yourself to overcome these obstacles is so crucial, that if you're not doing it beforehand, and obviously it's too late, all of a sudden you could be in big trouble.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time with people that, like, build a financial relationship when you don't need it.
Yep.
A lot of times I see a lot of business owners' egos get in the way of that, or cockiness, or, I'm not going to pay interest. But it's kind of like, it's actually paying insurance. And I think you'll appreciate this. I
Yeah.
mean, we pay for car insurance, we pay for homeowners insurance, we pay for life insurance, we pay for health insurance, all these things that you hope you never need to use. It's amazing to me how people don't build a financing relationship, even if they have to pay a little interest and some fees. I'm not
Absolutely.
talking about exorbitant stuff. Just it's taking out an insurance policy to build a relationship and to plan. So, but more importantly, that going through the notions of, like, what happens if this happens, whether it's in your life or especially in your business. Like, if there's a downturn, like, what would I do? How would I handle it? And constantly, like, reevaluating your business. That's helped get me through some of the most, craziest times, unexpected times, even
Yeah.
outside of COVID. So when it happens, it's like memory muscle. It kicks in, and you just go, and you know what you need to do.
Yeah. There's something about doing it over and over again, and then you realize that you're just a fighter. Which I've only spoken to you a few times. All I know, the thing that I know about Joe, is that he cannot sit still for about 2.5 seconds when he should sit still for a long time. But, like, it's like that. Like, my goal was, when I met my wife, when I was looking in the relationship and looking to get married, was I'm not looking for someone that I could be happy with, because happy is like complacency. I just want someone that if I'm next to them, I can fall asleep. That, for me, that's really all I'm really looking for. I just feel comfortable that I can fall asleep. And that's something that as annoying as my wife is and as complaining as she is, that's something I get to actually be able to do. And I tell people, and I advise clients all the time, that when things are bad, you have to have a smart place to pull from. You need a smart place to access capital. So it's just called smart money is like how we kind of coined it. Is when things are bad, the market crashes, your business tanks, whatever it is, instead of pulling from not smart, stupid places, which is pulling money from your business, taking out credit card debt, all these other things, you need to have these assets that are smart monies to play from. And that's where you can pull from. I recommend just on a basic level, HELOCs for all clients. It's not expensive. It's just something that you can get access to capital because you never know. You need business loans and you need relationships with banks that will lend you at a moment's notice that already knows you. You can't just all of a sudden when things are bad, hey, can you lend me money? Because you're already a bad risk. So it's planning and setting overall strategies for yourself if you really want to get yourself to the next level, because things are going to happen and you need to be prepared.
And all of our decisions are emotional, right? So it really comes down to managing the mindset and the emotions.
Yep.
Investing is an emotional thing, and you have to be able to manage your emotions, especially in those downturns. And I find those downturns doing nothing is great, and there's usually awesome buying opportunities.
Yep.
And you can have a credit line against your stocks, and you can pull from that. You don't have to sell them in a down market and use that capital to get through. But the emotional piece is real, and it's amazing to me how many financial advisors don't talk about that stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think it really is everything. And people, when things go doomsday, they're selling stuff, they're taking losses, and then they miss everything coming back up, and it completely can mess up your whole trajectory of
there's an interesting statistic. And there's another, we have a lot of lines, but there's something called investors, investments perform, investors don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If you put your money in an investment, chances are it's going to do pretty well. Let's say S&P did an average of 8% a year. That's great.
Yeah, a quality, like brand name.
Quality investment. You just let it cook and let it do itself. But when investors get involved,
they mess up the whole.
Correct. The average return is 4% less a year.
Yeah, which is huge. Compounding over 20, 30 years. It's a matter of retiring at 60 or 70 or 80.
It's enormous. So you're literally, so your money's supposed to double, let's say, every 10 years. At 4% a year, it's doubling almost over 20 years. And so you're losing serious money, and you don't think about it right now. You think about it over time. And I really liked what you said, is that you can borrow against your securities. You can borrow against your cash value in your life insurance policy. You can borrow against your home. You can borrow against your business. You have a lot of assets that you can borrow from. There's a reason why banks created these products, and be open to it. I recommend it all the time for clients. It's a huge mistake not to just at least know it's there and not to know where you can pull money from.
Absolutely. 100%. What do you think the biggest thing was for you with building your business? Like, what was the hardest thing that you had to overcome, or biggest challenge, that you went through in building your company?
I realized that really quickly that I would try to speak to every single person and talk to every single person, because I was really young and I really wanted to make money, because we never knew what money was. And I came into New York City, and as Hamilton says, in New York you could be a new man, which is, I think you could speak to that, and I'm sure your family can speak to that too.
Absolutely.
And I decided I'm going to be a new person. I'm going to be something that I wasn't before, and I want to create something and build an impact and help people and do everything that a young person's dream is. So I realized something really crucial was that if I talk to 1,000 people and I handed out business cards, nobody will ever call me, because I'm competing against all the other schmoes. But if I talk to 1,000 people and I narrow them down and I go down this funnel that I create myself of places that I will see these people consistently, and they can get to know me and they can build relationships, and a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, all of a sudden, when they have the need for life insurance, an investment advisor, whatever it is, they call me first because they know me for so long. I've never pitched them. I realized that's what I had to do. The second I changed that mindset, the second I went deep instead of wide. I mean, my first year out of college, I made $250,000. My second year out of college, I made $500,000, and I built and built and built from there. So you get to a point where it's like, even last year, for example, I thought my income was $500,000 less than what it actually was. And my accountant called me. He's like, "Hey, idiot, you owe a lot more in tax." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Yeah, you made $500,000 more than you actually thought you did." So I was like, "Oh, traumatized me, which was a weird thing to have. And everyone's like, "Aren't you in financial advising?" I go, "Yeah, but I don't know. Who the hell
Head
knows?"
down to the business.
Yeah, I'm sure I just work hard. Just work hard. I love people.
That's great. Well, it's so true. I mean, I think, I talk about this with my team is, are you playing the short game or the long game? If you're playing the short game, then you just, run around, hand out a bunch of cards, don't really give a shit what anyone has to say. But if you're really playing the long game and you build deep relationships, with people, I mean, it's just such a game changer. You also act differently, you do things differently, and you just some of my best relationships have been from people I met 10 years ago that nothing happened,
Yeah.
in the first 9 years. And then a year ago, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I get the deal of a lifetime referred to me. I mean, that's happened to me, multiple times. And, but it wasn't like, it's just like show up, do the right thing, help others, make it happen what they're doing, be a connector. And then it
You know
kind of
what?
like all works itself out.
You know what you said. That's one thing, and it's often overlooked and often used too often. Sorry, saying often all the time. You said relationships. There's two types of sales. There's a relationship sale and there's a transactional sale.
Yeah. Yep.
Transactional sale is short term. Me and you start a relationship, and I send you a client, and then 2 months later, you haven't sent me anything back, and I go, "Joe sucks."
Yeah.
But then there's the relationship where I go, I sent Joe a client. He did great for me. He did great for my client. My client loved me,
Yeah.
and he never sent me anything, but he was awesome. And
It's all
I
good.
look great.
Yeah. That's
Relationship.
it. And it all comes back at some point if you continue to do the right thing. And I think, the problem is everyone wants this instant like success and these things to happen instantly. And it's not easy to do the work to show up, to build relationships, and to do anything that you don't have the instant results in. And there's a lot of uncertainty to that, right? I'm spending all this time, I'm doing a lot of this work, and I'm not getting these immediate results.
Interesting.
But what you'll appreciate, it's just like compounding your investments, and the earlier you start, the more quality investments you have, the more it compounds.
Yep.
And next thing you know, you look back 20, 30 years later, it's like, oh my God, it's relationships compound as well too. Doing the right thing, providing good service, not ripping people off, that compounds. And I think a lot of people, older and younger and even older, really disrespect the compounding effect of playing the long game. And whatever it is that you're doing, you can be in any industry, but playing that long game in relationships, doing the right thing, for your customers, for your strategic partnerships, that stuff compounds. And I mean, I'd say for the first 10 years of my career, not a lot came out of it. Things came out of it, but not like I get a referral probably once a day now.
Yeah.
And it's just from like showing up and doing the right thing with no expectations and serving others. So
yeah, it's amazing what you can do if you actually put in the work, and the work is different than what people think. The work is not cold calling. The work is relationship building. You might not make money in the first year. The reason why I made money so quickly was because I was in fitness before, because when you don't have any money, you have to sell your time. That's all you actually have. So I would sell my time, make $70, $80 an hour or whatever it was. I was making $100,000 a year in cash in college. So it was great. Paid for my school in cash, all that's like cash. They were like, what is this guy doing? But you realize over time, like, okay. And then my first clients were all my personal training clients, and it had nothing to do with finance.
Yeah, and it led you into, and you built a bit. You didn't realize you were building relationships and doing the right thing, or you could have been the guy that shows up that didn't care about it. It was only about money, didn't care about his clients.
Correct.
And they see that people don't stick with you, and they feel like you shut up, didn't give a shit, and just wanted to get paid.
Exactly it. You have to give a shit. You have to give a shit. And we do this exercise with clients and friends and family and everybody that I can bother to do it, is we take a deck of 52 different values and we break it down to find that person's core values. So what I found is the best salespeople, their core value is relationships. And I'm sure relationships for you is like one of your 5. If you said my 5 core values, and off the top of your head, my guess would be relationships would be one of the top 5.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
and like your relationship with your friends, your colleagues, and you said a lot, which is so interesting and it's so deep as an owner, is that you said that you have a responsibility to your employees, which most people do not think that way. They
Yeah.
go, the
Yeah.
business does, they're fired. But you have a
Yeah.
responsibility. You have to feed not your family, but many families. And that's like,
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's everything. I mean, I think about it every day, and that's what drives me. That's what pushes me. Not only do I want to do better, I want to see my team do better. In order for everyone to do better, we have to grow and do better as a company. And I'm very transparent about that with my team. I don't hide that. And I think people do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but it's a reality. I mean, once you start, two people, 5 people, 10 people, 20, 50, 100, and you grow a company beyond, I mean, it really becomes about the customer and your employees. I mean,
Yeah,
those are the two main
yeah,
things.
absolutely.
If you can't provide value to both of your staff and your customers, you're usually out of business. So
Yeah, yeah, and you're in the end of the day, you can't talk to all of your customers. So your staff is the one that has to actually talk to their customers. If your staff is not talking to your customers properly, that means that it's always our fault. That's been my philosophy. If something goes wrong, it is 100% my fault. That
same
means
here. It's hard to take that blame and put that ego aside.
very hard. It's very hard, but like when you got nothing to lose, what's the difference? I have this client of mine, very interesting guy. He's Albanian, and you know those like in Manhattan, you have all the guys that are dropping off Amazon packages just running around.
Yeah, yeah, of course. We have it out here as well too on Long Island.
Exactly. So he started. His cousin is like some tech genius, and started a company, logistic company, and he started one employee, two employees. In the first year, he grossed $4.1 million. Never made over
Wow.
100 grand in his life. Second year, he grossed like 6 million. Made like so. His first year made about 1.4. Second year, he made about two something. Had 120 something employees in like 2 years. This is just like a newer client. Just started like a couple years ago, and he's just like his whole thing is like, yeah, when everything goes bust, not even if he goes, when everything goes bust, I'll rent a truck and I'll just drive the country and just do trucking. And it's like it's amazing. Like you're worth like in like a few years like $4 million, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'll go be a driver.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing. Yeah, no
Yeah,
real.
and I'm sure that won't happen.
I don't think so. These guys are something else. I mean, it's amazing what he's done.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really really cool. What do you see your next stage for your business? What do you think is going to be there?
That's a great question. It's funny. Um, I think for us, it's the market's really changing. Uh, Banks are just tightening. They were tightening before COVID, tightening now after COVID, and you see everything that's happening with banks. So we're just looking to bring more value to customers at all sizes, and companies are growing, and banks are going further upstream to do really just work with the bigger corporations.
Mhm.
And there's a real gap for like the small to medium sized company. So my goal is to help service those companies, but I really want National Business Capital to be the most recognized brand out there. When you think about business financing, I don't want you to think of a bank name. I want you to think about National Business Capital, and just come right to us before you go to a bank. And that's really been the mission, and it's really never been more clear. And we funded over $2 billion. I see us funding $1 billion a year.
Wow.
So that's that's really the focus. And to do that, you have to have a great team of people that get financing and the lenders and all the different things that we do, but they also have to understand business. And it's not an easy thing to do, to
Yeah,
teach
of
and
course.
train people to get business and to get lending. And so a lot of focus on people.
So let me ask you. You've been and just asking you some questions because I find it really interesting. You have like a really specific like drive, and that's you've been talking about that the whole time. Where is like there's a line that you have in your drive. I don't know like where did it stem from, because it doesn't sound like you're Mr. Versace growing up and people handing you silver
No,
spoon.
my
I mean, I know
parents got.
you're wearing that,
No,
but
this
like
is not. This is just nice. This isn't. I'm not the brand name guy. I'm like the
but
the clean cut guy.
I always find like there's for successful people and like the ultra successful, which I would put you in the ultra. What there's a moment in their life that they went, I will never be what I was before, and I want to push myself now to the next stage, and I won't. For me, it was that moment where like my dad was served, or sorry, the fire alarm. My dad was served, and so like that was something. Perfect timing. But so my dad was served at that point, and that was like a moment in my life where I went, that will never happen to me.
Yeah.
So what is your moment?
It's interesting. Well, I appreciate the questions. It's funny, not a lot of people ask me questions on my show, but you know, I think there was a few moments that kind of just continue to push and motivate me. I think, well, my parents got divorced. Second grade, single mom, worked hard, never had money. Money was always an issue, always prevented us from doing things, vacations. I mean, so, my mom always, she worked her ass off, respect her and appreciate her. Our house was always beautiful. Like it was always clean, but it was a 2-bedroom condo and it was me, my mom, and my sister. And, and then my grandmother came over here from Italy in like 1918, lived through the Depression. And she would tell me stories of, how hard she worked and, her and her siblings, sharing, a piece of, a loaf of bread for the week. And you know, those stories and just growing up the way that I did it, like I feel like, and that's why I think it bothers me today when I see younger people that just completely disrespect the opportunity, and look at what's happening right now, in Israel and in Ukraine and all these other places around the world. It's like we live in a great place. It's a safe place, and there's a massive amounts of opportunity. And when I like think about those stories that my grandmother would tell me about how she grew up to living through the Depression, hoarding things, hiding things, saving things, working in a factory, poor conditions, our hands got messed up from kerosene, like the sacrifices that were made for me to have it much easier, even though I worked my ass off and very hard and didn't like grow up, rich. I just feel like it just would be very disrespectful. I have God-given talents, and and there's so much opportunity here today to not for me to not keep going. It's like, why not? Like I'm alive, I'm healthy, I'm capable, and it's also like, what am I made of, right? So I want to keep pushing myself beyond, where I've been, and I'm just not complacent. And that drive, I think, stems back, from her, and stems back from growing up saying, hey, like, I don't want my kids to grow up with this. But what's important to me now is I want to keep pushing myself, and I want to keep going. I want to see others around me
So
grow with me, and I
so
want to make.
let me interrupt you if that's okay.
The one last thing I want to say is important is I still want to instill into my kids, because they're going to grow up a much different way
That
than
was
I
going to be
grew
my
up.
question. That was
But
going to be my question. How are you going to do it to your kids?
I think I'm going to put them to work. Like I'm like you want this, you're going to have to do this. Like I think
Yeah.
it's like in order to get things, you have to do things, and I'm going to talk about like the stories, and I think a lot of it's just communication, but also having some sort of structure around how you get given things. I think
Yeah.
just spoiling and giving, it's not it's not happening, and you're going to have to get out there, go get it. And I think we're my daughter is 8 now. My son will be 4 next month. I'm already having talks with my daughter about money and working and investing and saving, and like you can be anything you want if you work hard and hustle and outbeat all the other competition the world's out there. And so I'm very real with them, and I tell them too, no, you did great today, or no, you didn't do good today, or we're playing a game, no, I beat you, you lost. Like,
So
and
honesty
and,
with your
and
kids.
and
That's
just
deep.
being real. I still love my kids to death, but you got to be real with them. And the world is a crazy place, like we're seeing it right now. I think it's my duty to be as real as I can with my daughter, exposure to the realities of life in the world. And my job, I feel like my wife and I feel like our job as a parents is to get them prepared to move out and be on their own.
Yeah.
So if I coddle them and do everything for them, and don't teach them discipline, respect, and responsibilities, I'm failing as a parent. And I think a lot of parents want to protect these helicopter parents. Like, it's crazy. And I grew up with no cell phone, with a bicycle. I was 3 towns over, and I left in the morning and I saw my mom at night. She had no clue where I was. And but she taught me street smarts. I used it when I was out, doing whatever the hell it was I was doing, and I somehow made it through all that. So I'm not going to be a helicopter parent. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to like look at what my kid. I'm not doing any of that stuff. Like, there's the world you go. They're going to figure out these things. There's plenty of things that I was doing without a cell phone. That you find ways to access this stuff in the world if you want to.
Absolutely.
So.
You knock on people's doors and ask them to use their phone and call my mom. That's what you, can I call my mom to pick me up? They're like, yeah, of course. What do you mean? That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
I find it really, I did this Fox interview and the question was, how do you overcome, like, aren't you scared about your kids? Aren't you scared about your family? And I said, you don't overcome fear and you don't overcome evil if you're fearful of it. And so there was a big international day of hate, and all the Jewish schools started closing. And I said to my wife, my wife and I were deciding if we're going to send my kid, and they said tons of security and all this stuff. So of course, being responsible, I said, no, we're going to send our kids because you can't be scared, and you can't overcome things if you're just going to hide from it. And I love what you're saying. And one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is honesty. Like, you're honest with your employees and your kids, and that's the reason why I met this Hawaiian guy a while ago. Sorry for running different places. I met this Hawaiian guy a while ago, and his line was, "If your kids are shit, you're shit." And I was like,
exactly right.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly.
Yeah, there was some sort of a communication, I think miss, and it's real, and it's that's a great line. That'll motivate me to not be shit.
Yeah, to not be shit. But it's really cool. And my dad says it all the time, is that he came in from Canada and we had nothing. And he goes, I couldn't, in Toronto, there wasn't an economy where you can take advantage of opportunity. And there is so much opportunity right now. There is so much opportunity available. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you are throwing it away. We are in the most available country in the world. You can change your stars in a year. But people, if you're scared of opportunity or you're scared of being successful, it's such a problem. And it's a big part of what's going on right now. There's going to be a lot of media for a lot of time saying that we're not safe, because it's really interesting to watch the media. But in order to overcome terrorism, in order to overcome what's going on and the sadness and the tragedies of the world, we need to be resilient, and we need to push through, and we need to get ourselves to another level, give respect to the opportunities that we have, and help, instead of hiding from the corner, writing a check and excusing yourself.
100%. And the reality is, the world today is a safer place, than it was, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. There's less crime, there's more opportunity, there's less poverty. Absolutely. It's the media just, jams all this craziness. This stuff, unfortunately, has always been happening, but in the grand scheme, terrorism, crime is down. It doesn't take away that these things are messed up and shouldn't be happening, but it's gotten better. So you can't get focused on that.
And it's tragic and it's a catastrophe, but 80 years ago, there was 6 million Jews that were killed. There was 11 million minorities that were killed. There was 50 million people that were murdered. That was 80 years ago.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore. That will not happen anymore. Countries have formed alliances. That's even in Ukraine, and it's the worst thing in the world. World War I was unbelievable death. World War II was unbelievable death. We're not there, and we need to understand that, and we need to understand how to address it and make sure it's stamped out completely. We stamped out a lot of it, but we need to continuously push to stamp it out completely.
100%. And I think, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's where everyone needs to really, shift the focus, and anything that you can do to help, you should do. And if everyone just did the right thing, helped, was a good person, the world would be a great place. But I
Absolutely.
think all that, it starts at small, little things, and those things, wind up becoming, big things. And if everyone just did something little, in their lives, I think it would make a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's such a deep respect you have for your family. So my guess, all right, my guess of your 5 core values, can I guess?
Sure, go for it.
Relationships is 1,
Yep.
family is 2,
Yes.
excellence is 3.
Yeah.
I have excellence is 3. I'm deciding between integrity and honesty. What
Yeah,
would
I'd
you
say,
say?
I mean, I think they're pretty similar, but if I had to choose a word, I would choose integrity. I think, like being integritous is important.
Correct. And then
Yeah.
I would say either I would put health in there or wealth. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think, listen, I mean, health and wealth, but if I had to choose one, it would be health all day long. I mean, if you're, rich and can't do anything or unhealthy, like what's the point? But wealth is not just about money, because I think the
Yeah.
the wealth piece is a combo of like financial wealth, but also, wealth with your, good relationships with, your family and friends, and health. Like, if you don't have like good relationships, you're not a good person, you don't have the health, like who cares about the money? To me, it's like it really is relevant. I don't want to be a rich, miserable person that's unhealthy. Like I'd rather be, the opposite, and healthy, and have great relationships with my family.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Good for you. I mean, I love what you're doing. And we were talking a while ago, and just like it's so innovative what you're doing. And that's the only way that you're going to grow your brand to the place that you want to get to, is that you have to do something that nobody else is doing, and you have to have a good
100%.
culture, and you have to have good values. And that's, I feel, where life is going. People are getting tired of the banks because they're ripping everybody off. I'm sorry to say, they're ripping everybody off. So they have to go elsewhere, and there's a huge demand for people who are pissed off.
Yeah,
Look,
and the reality is just they're the banks are lending to big companies, big companies.
they don't have the value.
If
They're
if
rip.
you
They're
if you
crack
want
babies.
anything under $10 million, in fundings, it's not really a bank deal. So times are changing, and people are changing with it. People are recognizing it, and it's a wild time. But I founded this 16 years ago. It was not like that 16 years ago. I had to fight through all that. I saw this. I saw like, wow, like these private lenders and alternative lenders, like I can see this being a thing, but it takes time
Yeah.
to change an industry. So wild times ahead. I wrap up the show always with like a growth tip, and what would be one growth tip you'd give to fellow entrepreneurs watching the show?
I would say learn thyself. If you can get to know who you are as a person, and at least put down your core values, find other people with the same core values, and you'll be able to relate deeper and have faster, easier relationships, and build significantly faster. So
Nice.
so get your depth, put them down on paper, and then find other people's core values. So my core values, for example, are independence, health, wealth, loyalty, and integrity. So
Good
me and you
stuff.
have a lot in me and you have a lot in our core values that are aligned, which is why we're doing this together. And that's how you build relationships. If I found somebody, if you said money, probably would not be a relationship that we would be so deep in.
Yeah.
If you said like that, there's a lot of different there's a lot of different examples of different values that you have. But that's something that typically we do for clients. But that's something I would say: find your core values and find people who have the same core values as you, and you'll see your relationships will delve deeper, faster, better, and you'll make a lot more money because you're focusing on the relationship and the values.
Good stuff. I love that. Well said, Yair. I appreciate you sharing that. Appreciate you having on the show.
Thanks so
Much
much.
love, to you and your family, and I look forward to keeping in touch,
Absolutely.
and to see you rock and roll and continue to grow your business.
Thanks so much for the time, Joe.
Thanks for being on. Be well.